Hey everybody, it's Christine up today for Simple Stories using the Simple Vintage Country Harvest collection. So over the last year, the vintage collections from Simple Stories have really been my favorite to work with, and I've made my favorite layouts with them. So I was excited to dig into this one. Now, as you can see, I've got a really long picture that takes up almost the whole layout. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is if I can combine two chipboard frames from the collection to frame my picture and still get it on there. And so what I'm playing with is two of the bigger horizontal ones, and in the end what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim down this one, as you see, and I'm going to trim down the other one, trimming out the edge side of each one to create a bigger, longer chipboard frame. So you can see I cut out the left-hand side of that one, and now I've still got this line going down the middle of my picture, so I need to eliminate that one as well. But I'm trying to approach this really carefully because I don't want to like cut something off that I actually meant to leave there. So you can see I've got my pencil, I'm marking about where I want to cut it, and then I will trim it down just in those spots, measure twice, cut once. That whole idea, I'm trying to really be careful because I don't want to, if I mess these up, they're basically useless. So, I'm cutting those down, and then I'm going to add some strong adhesive to just the very edges to connect them where they come together. Now, because I'm putting one on top of the other, I am going to need to, in the end, pop up one of these frames with some foam adhesive. Otherwise, it will not lay flat. But you can see at this point, I've got it so that I've got that opening in the center there that allows all of our faces to fit in there. Now here comes the next tricky part, adhering it without messing it up. So I'm going to use some, like I mentioned, some foam adhesive. So these are 3D foam strips, and I'm going to use those on the picture frame that's on the left side so that it will pop up. The other one's going to lay flat, but right now it's just popped up. The left frame is only popped up in that spot where it's overlapping with the other chipboard frame. And so I need to get those so that that side will lay flat as well as the other side. So I'm going to add all that those 3D foam strips, mostly just because they're fast and they're thin. And you can see I trim them easily so I can add smaller pieces as needed. Then once I've got all those on there and I've got some adhesive on the other side, I will go ahead and add it to the picture. I carefully placed this off camera to make sure first that I was going to get it in the right spot. Then I'm going to go ahead and, I know some of you are like, oh, she's cutting. Cutting that big picture. Yes, I am. I'm going to cut it down, trim all around the edges so that it fits perfectly within my new custom-made frame. Next up, I'm going to begin to build my background. So I always love to use torn strips, especially with these collections. So I picked out a few different papers that I am going to use for that. I really like the way that the orange in the collection, which is like a deep rusty looking orange, coordinated with my pictures. I actually took my picture and laid it down on top of all the different patterned papers, and it didn't pop on a lot of them. But on the orange patterned papers like these, it really popped. And so I knew I wanted to use these two for sure. So I'm just cutting those two to start with. And then I'm going to figure out what's going to be my third one in there. So you can see I flipped that one over to see if this teal patterned paper would work, but it was very busy. So I don't think that's going to work. But laying it out, I've got it laid out right now with just those two, and then I have that patterned paper up top underneath my chipboard. All of this at this point, nothing is adhered other than that the picture and the picture frame are put together because I'm just playing to see what I want. I know I'm going to change some things. So let's jump ahead to where I add something else. I'm not loving the print at the top of the paper, so I'm actually going to use the bottom part of that same patterned paper and have a very simple white background up there to start with. And you can see that my picture is going to overlap both that and the layers of torn stuff there. Then I decided I'm going to use some green plaid. So I'm going to go ahead and tear the green plaid and get a bunch of strips of that going, and then I will be able to assemble the whole bottom. As I'm tearing, you'll notice that I'm trying to reveal the white edge. So by pulling the way that I'm pulling, that reveals the white edge, and then I trim off a piece, and then I'll pull up another part and reveal the white edge. And there's a whole trial and error to this, but then once you figure it out, it makes it easy to whip right through your paper. And since I'm using 3 different colors, I'm not even going to destroy an entire sheet of each of them. I'll still have some leftovers to use for a different project. Then I will begin to assemble them, lining them up right at the edge of my nice and calm patterned paper at the top, I guess is the best way to say it. So I'll line up each of the different strips. So I'll use a green one, and then an orange one, and a different orange one, and then a green one, and an orange one, and an orange one, and I'll rotate in the same manner all the way to the bottom. Now I am going to start at the top and tuck each new strip underneath it. You can also see that I'm pulling up the bottom torn part to really make it have some interesting dimension, and just use my hands to do that. Obviously I'm going to have a higher amount of the orange than the green. That's intentional because I love how the orange paper looked, and so I want that to really be my focal color, if you will, with the green just being a pop in there as well. Now you can see that it's all coming together as we skip ahead, and I've got some really beautiful ruffly torn layers going on right now, and you can already see how the colors are popping nicely with the picture, both the oranges and then the greens as well. Now, although this single photo is great, when I can get more than one photo on a layout, I like to. And so because things are pretty simple at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add another family photo on there. So this was from a photo shoot with a local photographer last fall in the leaves. And so I have multiple family shots, so why not make use of more than one if it can fit and the whole design doesn't get wacky. Obviously, I'm not trying to tell a major story here. I'm just trying to showcase those photos. And so if I could only get one on there, no biggie. If I can get 2 on there, that's great. So obviously in this case, 2 will work. I just used another one of the chipboard frames and a longer horizontal one to get it on there. While I contemplate where I'm going to go with my title, because my original plan isn't going to work anymore, I'm going to build out my embellishing. So I've got this diagonal design going already with the placement of my pictures. So I'm going to build upon that. I'm going to use a combination of chipboard and bits and pieces and cardstock stickers and foam stickers, all to create a diagonal cascade of leaves down and across the layout. So I'm also going to bring in even some butterflies. Really, I'm looking at color, I'm looking at size, looking at all the different options. And you can see I'm sorting through all the different chipboard pieces available, all the different bits and pieces available, and I kind of am laying them out as I think they will work and adding them on. So some of these I will pop up with 3D foam adhesive. Some of them I will put on flat, again, just depending on the location and what I'm adding on there. Big pieces, obviously, I put on there first and then kind of fill in as I go. Now, I really feel like at this point, although it's looking good, it needs one more pop of color. If you're looking at my picture, blue is an obvious pop of color that is coming out of the picture. And so I decided to use these blue butterflies, and I'm going to pop each of those up. I'm not going to use 3D foam adhesive, but I am going to use adhesive lines, which are kind of like glue dots, but they're line shaped. So I'm going to add those to the center of each butterfly so that I can pull the wings up. And not going to add in tons of blue, but by adding it here, it's going to allow me to use some blue in my title and still have it make sense, because didn't have it on there before. It looked a little weird to add in a blue title, but now it will work. And this is where, you know, sometimes abandoning your plan and going a different route is okay, because, you know, even though I usually do base, picture, title, then embellishing, I changed up my normal order in order to give myself a few minutes to think and shift gears, which, as you can see, landed me at colorful fall for my title. And I'm just adding a few little tiny pieces of 3D foam adhesive, because once again, the chipboard frame is causing it to not lay flat. And so I'm just adding it where I need it to make the word colorful overlap the frame and still lay flat. And then I pulled out fall to use as well. That is not foam adhesive, but that is not a foam sticker. So it's got a different feel to it and a different texture to it than colorful does. After I get that on there, I'm going to pull out some hearts from the foam stickers. There's a whole bunch of circular hearts and regular hearts that I'm going to add on, as well as I'll pull those off of some of the cardstock stickers as well, and use those as a final little accent throughout the layout. Obviously trying to be cohesive with my color choices, in that putting, you know, not necessarily a blue next to a blue, or orange on orange, or green on green, or that kind of stuff. So that is it for the Country Harvest layout. This is a brand new Simple Vintage collection, which I will link you up to in the comments down below. And you can also check out close-ups over at simplestories.com. Thanks for stopping by today.